that we all have to follow related to teaching effectiveness, but not only while factually it's a requirement, it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to draw on this system to continue to improve our teaching, give us really great feedback from the folks that we are teaching, our constituents, the people that are in our audiences as we do educational programming. And from that feedback, then perhaps that can help us to adjust our teaching approach or style or things like that. So, my advocacy as we open up about teaching effectiveness is one, there's a pragmatic need that I'm going to get into related to university requirements and our annual requirements associated with our performance review and so forth. But then also, it's an opportunity for us to really draw on just to underscore to improve our teaching for the folks that are joining our educational programs. So that being said, I do want to share that again, we'll cover a lot of pragmatic points and so forth here today about requirements, but I do encourage you as you conduct educational programming and so forth to really be deliberate about factoring this in as an equal opportunity that you may have to not just improve yourself, but improve the quality of your program and so forth. That often comes from the comments and so forth. We'll demonstrate where those comments are, but that's where I receive the most, in my opinion, meaningful feedback from the folks that are in the room with us because they can really get into this more, really, qualitative, more anecdotal observations and so forth, and the nuances that we often can't get from quantitative data. So be sure to take advantage of that. And I'm going to do what I consider the full presentation today from our teaching effectiveness site, and then we'll work together on where you can go and look at or access those entries that have been put in on your behalf. I'm thankful Dee Dee is able to be here today because she's the queen of us in regard to being able to not only get to that, but if you had trouble or difficulties or something, she's certainly a wonderful resource to be able to help navigate that. It's just in Qualtrics, so it's not that overwhelming. We just need to know how to do it, how to get to it. So we'll look at that together before we wrap up our time together here today. So I was mentioning about the breadth of teaching effectiveness. So before we hop over to the site, I do want to be clear, of course, as university faculty members, there's the vast majority of faculty with University of Maryland College Park teach on campus. We know that, but the other significant teaching that's done is by University of Maryland Extension and reaching these constituents and residents out across the state. But my point is this, no matter if you're teaching on campus or we're teaching out in the field, as we call it, out across our counties in Baltimore City, it is a university requirement that we collect teaching effectiveness. So I want you to think in your mindset that what we're doing here related to teaching effectiveness in this data collection is not any different than what a university professor on campus does. It's a little bit of a different construct because often those are collected at the end of a 15-week teaching series, a semester. And the last class often is when some type of link is provided, or back in the day, a form was distributed, or whatever would happen. And the university-based professors here on campus would collect that teaching data, and then that would be submitted to the department heads and so forth. And so this is not any different than that. So we are to take it very seriously. Just to touch base a couple of pragmatic things. One, while I mentioned at the beginning of the hour that it's to help us to improve, that should be our dominant kind of motivator to get that done. Our other reality is that it is a university requirement. We have a set of questions. There's a predetermined set of questions that are presented. Those were reviewed by and approved by the provost office at a particular point in time, so they can't be deviated from. Same set that's used. It's not the same set. What I'm saying is the same process that's used for university-based professors who, on campus, I should say campus-based professors. So we have to use that set. So how then is that used? There's a few things that are drawn on. One, within Extension, we have the good fortune of doing an annual review process where we're able to come together. We, as program leaders, are able to come together in concert with our county and area Extension director colleagues and review our faculty members on an annual basis. So we do draw on teaching effectiveness as part of that process. So we are required on an annual basis to collect teaching effectiveness. I'll go ahead and do just jump to the chase here. Our advocacy is for us to target 40 to 60 to collect on an annual basis. Don't spend a lot of time sweating that. If at the end of the year you have 35, it's fine. If you end up with 150, that's cool too. The reality is obviously as the N goes up, the number collected, it gives a better representation of the breadth of the teaching that's been offered. So there's some strategy to this. Try to collect from multiple teaching opportunities during a given year, so that you don't have just from one. You have a variety of different series of feedback and so forth, different audiences, et cetera. And then, of course, as the number goes up, then you're able to get a better sense of that breadth. And there is a pragmatic implication because if you do too few, and let's say the teaching effectiveness is really high, somebody can dig into that solid enough to know, oh, well, they only had 3 respondents this year. So that's going to be a problem because it's not really a representative group to be able to give this feedback. So you need to be sure that you seek that out. One little caveat here, if you work in 4-H youth development, it's a little more challenging because we cannot collect teaching effectiveness information from young people less than 14 years of age. So that makes it much more difficult often for 4-H folk to be able to, access a number of teaching effectiveness ratings and so forth that, to be able to give a strong representation because so many of our audiences are too young. So completely solvable. We just have to give more thought to this, thinking proactively ahead of time about when might we be presenting to a non-youth audience, and make sure that you build in. I advocate for people in 4-H youth development to build that into their IEP to say collecting teaching effectiveness because I'm doing a teacher workshop or I'm doing a training with adults or I'm doing a training with volunteers or whatever it happens to be. And then further, if you're doing high school age youth, then you can make sure that you take advantage of that too. All my audiences are internal. I don't really have external clientele generally, but where I do get those is when I speak at conferences and so forth. So I'm always quite deliberate about collecting at when I go to national meetings or if I'm at a statewide type of activity or conference outside of our internal family and I collect there. So you just have to think about it ahead of time and be deliberate about when you're going to collect those and plan accordingly. So I mentioned about annual AFR. The other thing is all faculty are subject to or have the opportunity to promote. And so with that said, it's very important that you have a representative summary of both annual teaching and then that summative total. So Dee Dee, who's on with us, carries the water for us in this regard. She does an annual summary for us of the mean, the average across, for lack of a better term, of teaching effectiveness rating, and provides that not only to us, but it's also provided to our supervisors. And so that is part of that annual process. So that affects us when we go up for promotion, both with the PTK, our professional track faculty, and of course with our tenure track and tenured faculty. So when we get up for promotion and review, our teaching effectiveness rating comes into play quite significantly, and we need to make sure that we have representative data from all of the years that are preceding this particular review. So it is used, of course, it's voluntary in our PTK faculty to go up for promotion, but of course it's very heavily skewed to teaching, both the outputs of teaching and so forth, the change in knowledge and skill, and the data that's collected associated with those teaching outputs, but then further looking strongly at is this an effective teacher? Are the representative individuals that responded indicating that this person is effective in their teaching role? So that is something that's definitely looked at. So both on an annual basis and the totality of that when we go up for promotion, both with as a PTK faculty member or with tenure track as well. So I mentioned about the annual summative piece, but then Dee Dee also does the summative component that is provided for those individuals when they go up. So very important pragmatic pieces in addition to, just the opportunity for us to draw on this to improve our teaching approach and our teaching style and so forth. So that's all the pragmatic things. Let's hop over. I'm going to share screen and get over to UME Answers. I hope this works right. I'm always nervous because I don't know that it's going to work the way it's supposed to. It looks like it would. Um, okay, Dusty, is that showing up? I should be on UME Answers.
Yes, we see you.
Okay, super, y'all. So I do a poor job of remembering the URL for this. Dee Dee may be cringing watching or hearing me say that, but what I do is I just go to Google and I type in UME Answers, and it's going to pop up a Google search, and it says UME Answers Confluence or something like that. I click on it, and it gets me there. If I'm at my main computer, of course, I have it bookmarked, and it's going to get me to UME Answers. But UME Answers is just the go-to, y'all. If you're newer to the organization and you don't have this bookmarked, I encourage you to do that because this is a bit of a one-stop shop for all our needs associated not only with being a faculty member, but our staff as well, and lots of different support pieces. As part of onboarding, this is showcased. It's underscored. It's underpinned. I showcase it with everybody that is under my supervision for sure. But there's a couple of spots where you can access teaching effectiveness, which is what I'm getting to. So you could go to the main college website. You could go to Extension's website from that main college website. You could go to under About within the Extension website and go to Program and Organizational Development. Click on that. You're going to find a teaching effectiveness link and connection. Or like me, just go to UME Answers. That's where I go for most everything. And Dee Dee has it linked under this section for links. You can click that. There's a whole list of different helpful links for us. And there's a link there for UME Answers. And further, under Program and Organizational Development, this scooch us over there. That's going to pop up this section of this interactive PDF, it says. But under that, you'll note all these major topics. Again, during onboarding, if you're newer to the organization, this should have been showcased to you. We certainly draw on it because there's Program Planning Central, promotion for PTK, publications, all of those types of things. But my main point today is to scooch us over to teaching effectiveness, and that's going to take us here. So Dee Dee, keeps this site active, and my intent today is just to look together at this site. You can prowl through this. You can't break it. There's no concern about you digging around into this. In fact, you're encouraged to do so. So now that I have this open, I'm just going to really showcase some key things as we relate to teaching effectiveness. And then we're going to look at a form together, and then we will pretend like we're filling one out, for lack of a better term. So everything you need is here. Over on the left side, there's information associated with general teaching effectiveness, to be used when teaching a class to the general public, 14 and up. As we mentioned a bit ago, I was focusing on 4-H, but we may also have other program areas that teach youth and their subject matter areas. And they may not be 4-H members necessarily or through the 4-H program, but it'd be the same thing. We can only collect on those that are 14 or older. So the form itself, there can be hard copies that can be downloaded. So Dee Dee has those posted here. The reason that's important is there's a variety of different ways that we can offer teaching effectiveness to our audience. And so we'll work through those today because there can be some strategies to it. But having the hard copies that are available to us, let's say that I was going to go to a teaching session that I was hosting, and I wanted to take hard copy handouts that I'm going to distribute to the audience. They will fill those out. I often then ask a colleague if they happen to be there, or maybe a volunteer that's there, if they would be willing to collect those up. It's very important to share that with your audience, that just explain, part of the university requirement is that I need to collect teaching effectiveness forms. In addition to, it's important to me so I can improve my teaching, but I'm also required to do that. So would you be so kind as to fill out one of the teaching effectiveness forms for me? And my friend, my colleague, whoever it happens to be, at the back of the room will collect those up. Just go and lay them down upside down, as you leave the room, or maybe you could have an envelope that they could slip them in. It demonstrates that you're disconnecting from you, so that they're candid in their feedback and so forth. And there's not any kind of identifying information that's on that review form. So they could be a bit intimidated if they came and handed them directly to you. So be sure to set up a little bit of a process that disconnects that. And often that's done, especially when we have these printed forms that you would collect at the end of a teaching session. So there's a couple of things to speak to that are a little more contemporary. One is that Dee Dee has provided a downloadable, this image that you can have for teaching effectiveness. That's this QR code, pardon me. And there's other support things. You'll see that there's a postcard, because sometimes people will maybe have an educational program and then they send out a follow-up. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you. And by the way, would you be willing to complete this teaching effectiveness form? And you put the QR code on this postcard that you send them as a thank you, and they can click on that on their phone and it would take them to it. Similarly, you could do that in an email. Send them that. You can include the QR in an email, or you could just put the link directly in there, because here on the far right side, you'll be able to go directly to those links. And that would take people there. And again, that's a strategy. People often, again, thanks for coming. Here's some additional information. Here's the PowerPoint that I promised you. And by the way, would you fill out this teaching effectiveness form for me? And so you could put that into that information as well. So you could download this QR code and include that. You could link directly to the form that we're going to open here in just a moment. So there's a variety of different options. Now, some of our folk, though, who are smarter than me, quite frankly, they will create their own QR code, because they have them access the teaching effectiveness in real time at the end of their teaching session. And so you could certainly do it with this QR code, but there's a little bit of nuance to it that I want to speak to. Is that, for instance, I'm going to pick on 4-H because that's what I'm most familiar with and most use. But if you were to provide this QR code, which shoots them straight to the 4-H section, it's going to ask them some questions. It's going to ask, who was your instructor? And Dee Dee has everybody that works for us, every faculty member is in that system. So we have to, whoever was teaching, the people that are responding have to go find that person. And then if you're in 4-H, we also ask, we have our big 6 priority areas of programmatic emphasis. So it asks that question, what was the programmatic topic? And so they have to pick that. So if you're doing it in real time at the end of an educational workshop, that can sometimes be cumbersome for people that are on their phone to answer those questions. And then it takes them to the main 5 questions that they have. And the nice thing is then there's a comment box and they could include that. So what I've observed is some of our people, they will create their own QR code that takes folks to the sets of questions. It's a static set. You cannot change the question set. But rather than having to navigate through that, who was the instructor and what was the topic and all of that, they just collect the questions. It's kind of the same format that they may use if they built a poll into a virtual presentation. You can build a poll at the end of these questions. Now, what happens though is you can get that data, but then it has to be put into our system. It has to be put into Qualtrics, into this system. So what then happens is either you as an individual, or in our perfect world, we may have a support staff member, maybe we have a student that works for us, somebody that we would hand either that Excel spreadsheet to if it comes out of a Zoom meeting where you did the poll, Or if you have the QR code, whatever system you set it up in where that data goes, you have to take that and then go put it into this Qualtrics system. So it's a bit of an extra step. However, the trade-off is that people could probably fill that out at the end of an educational program in about 30 seconds. They just click, 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 and they're done. As compared to a little bit of a nuance of having to answer some of those questions that gets them to the main site. So I've seen it done a variety of different ways. Ultimately, though, it has to get into this system to be recorded. And the more we can disassociate ourselves as an instructor away from it, the better. It's a self-imposed rigor, but we have to, of course, have a student, or if our support staff member is able to do that, then that has to be done as an additional step. Whereas if you send them directly to the site, it loads it and then they're done and you're done. You don't have to go and load that separately. So all of these things are provided for you to try to make it as easy as possible. But we have all of these QR codes, and of course, when our SNAP-Ed folk were still with us, there was one for them as well. So a few things, and then we're going to just go look at one of the surveys together. In addition to this 40 to 60 folks that you may gather from that are in your audiences, where you're doing educational programming, we're also required to collect peer forms. So you'll note on the right side here, it notes that we need annually at least 3 administrative or peer evaluations, and from at least 2 or more classes. So it just takes a little bit of forethought on your part. If you're teaching a class and you have a couple of colleagues that are joining it, it's perfectly acceptable to go say, would you be willing to do a peer form for me? And they'll hopefully go in and they'll do that. They give feedback. And so, we're hopeful for candor from them, that they'll provide, it could be from everything. Hey, I sat on the back row and I could barely read your slide. The font was too small, or it was too blurry, or, whatever it happens to be. Again, it helps all of us to improve. And then if I noticed Dr. Jarbo's on this morning, and so if I draw attention, because if we are there as administrators, or if you have a CED or AED that's joined and so forth, you could ask one of us, would you be willing to fill that out? I tend to do it anyway. If I go to any program that my faculty that are direct reports to me are teaching, I always fill out a peer form for them. It's just something that I do, and I suspect many of my colleagues may do the same, but it's not out of line to specifically ask, because we do have to collect at least 3 of those each year. So again, that's aggregated together, and that feedback, it just helps all of us to continue, to improve ourselves when there's sometimes things that we may not take note of. So yep, go ahead. You got a question?
Sorry. Yeah, we have a question. Hold on just a second. Let me pause the recording.
Just scooching down here to use a slang term. You'll note, again, here's the peer form that's there. These are principal surveys. Again, that's the one we're going to look at. Here's the online. So you could click on that. You could get the link that you could email out, something along those lines. And so I'm going to pick on the 4-H one so we can just look at that again. That's what I have the most history with, but you'll notice you have to pick yours, because there's FCS, there's ENR, and our ag and food systems colleagues as well. So that's available to us. So this is what I was sharing about when you get over to that. It's going to ask some questions. That's why some of the folk, they just do their own QR and put it into some type of system that they can extract that data out. But again, it has to go be put into this. But it's going to ask these questions like, who's the educator being observed? And so we're all listed in that. Because I click 4-H, it's only showing the 4-H faculty. If we click ag, it's going to pop our ag folk up. And so if we have people with split appointments, they may do multiple programming and so forth, it's going to default to the whatever the dominant portion of anyone's position is, their kind of main primary percentage of allotted time, that's where they're going to be posted in this system. And then you can put the title in. Again, if people are doing that, that could take some time. But what I just to pretend, let's say I'm going to pick on me. Um, and then the date. What I'm getting to is it's going to pretend like you've got one. And so I could say, I could just print that is what I'm getting to. Um, And so this is where these question sets pop up. So you can print this document out. Again, there's a printable one that you saw in the middle that was provided. So you could just hop to that. But that is really drawn on. So it's the same thing that's going to happen. So again, if you collect this data separately, then you still have to have someone go in and make sure that they put this data into this is a Qualtrics form behind the scenes. It's just collecting that data. So that's something to be mindful of. So anyway, that's the system as you access it. There's a variety of different ways that you can get the forms. You can hand them out. Again, you can have people go direct to the site and complete it. You can download a form. I'll be candid with you. That's how I do it. I take printed forms, but I'm a bit old school in that I take those, I distribute them. That way I know I've collected up that however many people, if I have 30 people in my audience, I could get, 25 to 30 forms if people don't have to rush out. And then, of course, but however, when I get back to the office, then I have to, I get a student or somebody to go enter those. But then I'm confident that I've been able to collect those because it's a look can be a little nerve-wracking because if you use the process that I mentioned where we may do a follow-up letter to people. Thanks for coming. Great to have you. Or an email. Great to have you. Here's my PowerPoint. And by the way, would you fill this out? The percentage of respondents goes down considerably. There's much fewer people that will fill that out. That has been my experience. Maybe some of you have a different experience. And if that's the case with you, then I'm happy for you. But generally, I hand out the paper form. But I will say, as in contemporary times we're in, I've also experienced, especially where I teach with junior faculty, they're smarter than me and they build their own QR code. And at the end of the session, they'll show that people on their phone, they fill it out on their phone literally in 30 seconds. And before we even walk out of the teaching classroom, they can look in and see, oh, we got 29 respondents. Boom, they're already there. So there's a variety of different ways that you can, a variety of different approaches that you can take to this. So play with the system. You can't break it. Just kind of dig in. So Dee Dee's been kind enough to put up here to view your results. Go to Qualtrics. So we're going to click on that. See if it'll shoot me over there. I just had to change my password to my great frustration. Um, I loved my password and I had it a long time. Now I've forgotten where I was with typing it. I can't type and talk. Oh goodness, I've got a duo now. Well, I'm in trouble. It says my account's disabled. Well, you'll probably do better than me, y'all. So I don't know what's going on with that. But you would be able to get in eventually. And fortunately, Dee Dee has that link for us there. And of course, she's kind enough to put her email as well if you need any assistance. So you can just hop out, pop a note over to Dee Dee, and she'll help us. She's the go-to for all this for sure. Was someone had something?
Jeff, it's
Oh,
Dee
go
Dee.
ahead, Dee Dee. Thanks.
Um, if you'd like, I can pop my screen up so people can see.
That'd be excellent. Thanks so much. I guess Dacia will need to give you. Oh, I need to stop
Yes,
sharing then, right?
right.
Right.
Okay.
Dee Dee, you should have the ability to share.
Okay. So
All right. I will get you to the dashboard. Okay, well, I'm in a different place, but we'll go to projects. Okay.
And Dee Dee, while you're bringing that up, we do have, hold on, we pause.
So is everyone able to see my screen now?
Yes, Dee
yes.
Dee.
All right, so this is what the actual dashboard looks like. And just to be impressed with our numbers, I wanted to show this is our total response count since we started collecting this data. So what we can do, and I'm gonna share a little disclaimer. I've been having lots of troubles with the dashboard, and I've been hearing from plenty of people that can't access it. So I've been working behind the scenes with Qualtrics trying to get this fixed. Haven't had a lot of luck, but I'm hopeful. So if we want to, usually it will be just your view, and if you don't have a view or a dashboard in your projects, please get in touch with me. I'll do my best to try to figure out what's going on. Let's see. I think I'll go to nope, you're not there. Mona won't mind. I'm sure Mona won't mind if we use hers. So then we can go by the program presenter. You can select the workshop or the topic. It goes through all of them. And then the display actually, you can also go by the date. You can say all time or the past year, past quarter. You can set your custom date range, all of those. But here's where you would see this is the workshop breakdown, what the topics covered. And then these are breakdown by each question. And then this is where the comments are. Mona, I chose you because I'm sure your comments are all lovely. You get very nice, always get good reviews. So, does anyone have any question about this?
Dee Dee, we did have a question wanting to know where to locate this, what was the link, and I was just sharing with everyone that I'll provide the link to this dashboard in the follow-up email notification.
Well, Jeff did mention that it is at the top of the teaching effectiveness page on UME Answers. But also, if you go to your Qualtrics account, and I have to stress, it has to be the UME Qualtrics account. There is an extension Qualtrics instrument, and there is a University of Maryland Qualtrics instrument. We use the extension. If people have trouble with that, that's all on the UME Answers page as well. But if you go to your account in Qualtrics, it should be listed on your dashboard, on your project list. If it's not, I typically tell people you have to have at least 5 reviews to have access to your dashboard, because we like to provide anonymity to participants. So that might be a problem. The other piece is just get in touch with me and I'll do the background detective work. So
Thanks, Dee Dee.
you're welcome, Dacia. And I'm going to stop screen sharing right now.
Okay, Dee Dee stops, and I'm going to start again. I'm going to just access again just to make sure that there's clarity among us about accessing these forms. So hopefully that's shown up again. Can people confirm I'm back to the teaching effectiveness site?
Yes, we can see. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. So again, if you want to take just printed forms, they're already, pre-ready. So Dee Dee has those. Let's pick on our ag friends. You can open that. Here's the form. You can literally print one and then go run a bunch of copies, however many people are coming, and you can hand those out at your educational program. And so, it's old school, pen and paper, But this is how I do it with mine. And again, someone has to collect them at the back of the room, try to create some disconnect between you and the respondent. And then, put them in an envelope or so forth, and then carry them back to the office. But then somebody has to go into the system and enter them. But all of the questions, I was saying in 4-H, we have different categories. Ag is the same. Our other program areas more likely have those designated similarly. But here's the big 5 questions that I mentioned that are consistent, and these are approved by the provost, so they can't be deviated. And then any comments. So this is again where we get the richest feedback, in my opinion, is from this. So and again, just to underscore, we're asking, or the expectation is that you collect between 40 to 60. Again, it just helps get the end to a point that you can begin to see a strong representation of how effective a teacher you are. And quite frankly, we draw on that when we do annual review and further when your colleagues are doing reviews for promotion, whether it's with our professional track and through AEP or through APT, through our tenure track. They're going to look for that end to be strong enough that it's given a good representation. Now, kind of our UME average, the mean is usually about 4.6. We're good at teaching. We're good at that. And so we are usually about there. So statistically, it's quite significant if yours is 4.7 or 4.8, something along those lines. And so that is, something to be mindful of. So if you have a broad enough representation, then you're going to be able to skew that. And so, just something to consider. Mona, I see your hand up, so I'm going to.
Thank you. Also, I wanted to talk to our point about the strongly disagree. I am very close with all my teaching data, which means I comb through more than 30,000 records every year. Yeah, I see some big eyes. But if I do see a line of strongly disagree and there's a positive comment, I will always change those responses for the educators. So, and that's why I'm so close to that data, because that does happen. Not a lot, but it does happen. So just want to reassure people.
Okay, thanks, Dee Dee.
You bet.
So again, just to look together. So download the form. Here's the QR code. You could get the link. You could go to it. You could use that for postcards. You could click on that, put that link in an email. It's going to shoot people to it. There's such a variety of different ways. But at the end of the day, the other thing is just to make certain that we're staying on top of this and be very deliberate. Again, for those that are newer to the organization, I encourage my junior faculty to build it into their IEP, like literally say collecting during this quarter after this workshop. So then you kind of know, all right, I'm going to be quite deliberate about making sure that these are collected. So now I wanted to share one more thing, if I can get it to work correctly. Okay, is that showing up for you? It says teaching summary UME Qualtrics.
Yes, we can see that.
All right, super. So it's just really underscoring what Dee Dee was kind enough to showcase. I can send this to Dr. Randolph, and perhaps she could send out to those that had registered. But it's just a summary to help us to remember this topic about where you can go get your teaching summary. So it's what Dee Dee showed a while ago in Qualtrics. So just as said, it's ume.qualtrics.edu. You have to use the UME one. Or I may have it backward. It may be qualtricsume.edu. But anyway, make sure that you do a UME one. And then you go to your dashboard once you're in their dashboard viewer. Because, again, it's going to take you to the right one. Because just as y'all saw, I had to put in my UMD credentials. Then it's going to send me a duo. So it's going to get us to the right spot to our portion of Qualtrics. And then in the top right corner, there's going to be sections related to teaching effectiveness. And then there's also, once you open it, and you'll see, once you get into the main system, On the left side also, there's a pop-down menu, and it's going to have all of your dashboards that are loaded, because you may have other dashboard or other systems that you have, because of you're collecting evaluation data here too from your programs, your programmatic data. So you may have some that you've built, some that you've named, and so forth. And so you'll just have to find teaching effectiveness, click on that, and then it'll open your dashboard. But we can send that as a bit of a follow-up to the comments that we had shared earlier, and Dee Dee was kind enough to showcase. So with that, y'all, that's kind of the site. It's all the different parts. Just to underscore, you're expected to collect 40 to 60 on an annual basis, 3 administrative and peer forms on an annual basis. Cumulatively, those are aggregated together, and that's provided both for the annual AFR, and then also when you go up for promotion, whether you're a professional track or whether you're going up for mandatory review, or up for full professor or principal agent in our department, that's where your peers will use that. It's also used, we do, intermediary, I can't even say that correctly. But anyway, at the 3-year review for APT, and then all of our faculty also, once even you're tenured or once you promote as a PTK faculty member, we do 5-year reviews for all of us. And so it's a peer set that does that. So teaching effectiveness information is provided for those groups as well. So it is drawn heavily on. And again, just to underpin, as an academic institution, it's expected and required from the provost office. And whether someone's teaching on campus in that type of setting, or whether we're teaching out across our counties in Baltimore City, we're all expected to collect that. So Dacia, I just see, are there any other questions that we have?
No, I do not see any additional questions, but I'll pause the